So they're going to answer questions relating to this video. How many of you have not seen this video before? Oh, so many. I thought you have seen it. Okay, so that'd be nice. Okay, the next session really is on augmented reality. And that's what you're seeing, right? Using sensory equipments to run logistics operations. Okay, so I have new 5 experts. You know, it's the first 10th anniversary forum where I have all new speakers with me. Almost all new. Only 2 were not new. 3. Now it's 3. Yeah. I refresh it first time. Normally I don't. Normally I take everybody back so it's easier. They know how I ask the questions, right? So it works this way. They have to answer a question relating to, is that real? It's SAP, so none of you are SAP, right? You have no relationship with SAP, right? You didn't buy their shares, right? Okay, so that's okay, right? Is that real? But before you tell them whether it's that real, more about yourself, right? Yourself, and then the company you work for. But more about yourself, less about the company you work for. They are not important. Unless you are the owner, then they are important, okay? So maybe we start with Larry, and then we move on.
I'm on, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Larry Sweeney. I'm with Honeywell in the scanning and mobility section. Originally one of the founders of Vocalect many, many years ago, which is, we really did all the pioneering work in voice technology throughout the past 25 years or so, applying it to distribution. And finding other technologies like augmented reality, combining, and this is something that we try to do all the time, pair up the technologies to create efficient workflows. And that's really what my career has been based on for many, many years, is optimizing workflows, utilizing technology.
Was that real?
It's real on the screen, yeah.
No. So why is your
I'm not aware of any site that has anything like that up and running. I've been in Asia Pacific for the past 7 years, so I'm not really on the ground in Europe knowing what's going on there. I know in close to this part of the world, there was a company that tried to make this work very, very hard, spent many years and gave up. Yeah, so I don't know if it was giving up as in pausing or giving up as in giving up at this point, but they tried very hard.
Okay, so that's really the future, right? Okay. Charlie.
So, thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlie Macdonald. I work for a company called Telstra. I was approached by someone yesterday and asked if I worked for a company that made electric vehicles. That's Tesla. I work for Telstra. We're an Aussie-based telecommunications and IT, he's loving it, this one, an IT services company, so hence the koala. A bit about me. I started working in supply chains in the mid-80s. So I'm probably the same sort of vintage, more on our left rather than the right. And obviously, you know, seen many technology changes and deployed mobile technology in the 80s, right? So mobile supply chain visibility technology has been in the integrator side of the industry for many, many years. I'm really interested in augmented reality, and I was at Larry's session yesterday, and Larry had a gem of an expression. He had that OBP plus NT equals EOBP, that old business process plus new technology equals expensive old business process. I'm more interested in what's the problem we're trying to solve here. And if we can tease that out this morning, actually it doesn't really matter what the technology is. Yeah. But I will later talk about what we're seeing in augmented reality and what we're building for our customers. And frankly, none of it's in the supply chain at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Prof. Lee?
Okay, I'm Lu Hei Lee from National University of Singapore. So actually, lately we have set up a center for next generation logistics, and that's why we are here and hope to try to communicate to all of you about what can be the next thing for the supply chain. So personally, my interest actually started from the containers operation. So we've been working a lot in the containers operation. So if you came to our track yesterday, so we show you the double story concept that we have built for about the content terminal. As for the topic for augmented reality, sorry, actually, when Paul gave me the title, I go to do Google. So do some research of what is this augmented reality. So later I read you the definition that I got. And from there, I found out, now being an academia, one good thing is, yeah, we know nothing, but good thing is we can learn, okay? So by learning and then by look at our experience and how we learn about supply chain, so hopefully I can give you another perspective of why should we need and what are we need, and then what are the possibilities that we can use for this augmented reality so that we can so-called unveil the possibilities so that we can imagine together. Okay.
Google is the father of all knowledge.
I must admit as well, like when I got invited from Paul for this panel, I was slightly augmented reality. Okay, how do I put that in context with warehousing as well? So I was talking to our colleagues in Switzerland at headquarters and see what we actually do there. So I felt more comfortable yesterday talking about robotics. Nonetheless, my name is Roland. I work for Swisslog. We are an automated material handling provider. We build automated warehouses. And we are quite innovative, as you can see as well, with our robots in the showroom. And as well, we are testing Google Glass for visual picking. So what you've seen here, we also try to test. So if you want to test it yourself, please come along. We know they don't sell it anymore, Google, but I believe there is a future for it, definitely. Maybe a little bit over-engineered at the moment, but there's certainly application for it. I'm based in Shanghai. I'm very grateful to live in Asia, especially the adoption of technology is much faster, I believe, than it is in Europe. I'm engaging with the leading e-commerce players in Asia Pacific again, so I'm learning from them and actually very surprised on how fast they adopt technology. And augmented reality may be one mean in the future of basically making warehouse processes more efficient.
Thank you, Roland. Frank?
Yes, hello.
Wait, Frank, are you a Singapore citizen?
Yeah.
Who are you voting for?
PAP for sure.
PAP.
No, because
our French friend became a Singapore citizen. Oh, no, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Who is Vocus Party? You can kill him anytime. I rule out you.
I just got my citizenship, so it's very difficult not to vote for.
Cooling day, no?
A cooling day. I'm not in election, so there's no cooling for me.
Hello, good morning. So
don't distract. Frank got to finish.
I haven't started. Yeah, my name is Franck Paduch, and I'm working for Schaefer, so which is let's say direct competitors of Swisslog. I had the same dilemma as my friend. In fact, is that when Paul asked me to check or to be part of this panel, I had to Google as well and check really what the AR, what was the meaning of ER, and to really connect AR to our type of activity. Schaefer is a material handling suppliers, and we are very much into this intra-logistics sector, so the DC or the warehousing sector, which is a very important part of the supply chain in terms of supply chain management. I've been based here for 29 years. I'm working in the automation and dynamic system division of Schaefer, and our focus is very much into automation, dynamic systems, and so AR is, in a way, something very important. We are looking into it. There are a lot of R&D at our German office. They're looking very much into implementing all these sensing capabilities into our warehouse. There's a lot of challenges, and I think we are going to talk about it today.
So have you seen the warehouse before?
I've seen, and I saw the video as well.
No, I mean the real one.
The real, yeah. I saw this kind of warehouse. It's quite. There's not a lot of such warehouses in the world. That's something you need to know. Especially, I've been in Asia for 29 years. I'm not so sure that in the next 5 years you will be able to see the same kind of level of automations in a way.
Okay, so gentlemen, right? It goes this way, right? Somebody described this as sensory logistics to me. Someone, right? The augmented reality came from SAP. So SAP talked about it as augmented reality. When I took a warehouse structure like this, or the video that I took, I actually see elements that each of you has done before. So let's talk about it that way, right? Augmented reality need not be a combination of everything that is happening there in the video, but it's going to happen. But what do you see as augmented reality from each of your point of view? I know you have something, so maybe we start from your side. And where do you see this evolving into? And let's go back to the same thing, that can we ultimately build that warehouse?
Absolutely, yes. In my opinion, this is going to be one of the next big steps, certainly in logistics and in warehousing and distribution centers, right? It's going to be this combination, this blending of automation, where things become more and more automated with less humans, with the humans becoming more productive, more accurate, with more precise workflows, okay? Vision is going to be part of that. I don't think there's any question. It's going to be a combination of technologies. You know, over the past 25 years, a lot of new technologies have come out, like RFID and all these things get a lot of hype. And people would ask me, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? It's going to displace voice. To which my response has always been, no, I think it's going to be complementary, right? Any kind of technology for a human, I believe, if it's sensory, can all work in a way that's complementary. Now, finding that right combination of technologies to put on a person to optimize the workflow, that's the trick, that's the art. That's where the real innovation and thought leadership is going to have to come from. That's pretty good. That is really good, but I think it can be done better.
Yeah. But that's a bit fake, because we fake it all out and do a video.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
So Paul, I would, SAP are making us look inside the warehouse. I'm quite interested about looking outside the warehouse. I was making a comment to some of my colleagues just before we started this morning. If this conference was being held in Australia, one of the main topics of discussion in the supply chain would have been about safety and compliance. And then I was here yesterday. Apologies, I didn't see any of the presentations this morning. I haven't heard that as a conversation. So for us, chain of responsibility from a road transport perspective, speed, fatigue, and mass management is incredibly important. And I'm really interested in the safety aspects of augmented reality. So I was going back, what problem are we trying to solve? So if we say we've got a safety challenge, and for example, you're in a supply chain that is going to a mine site or going to a construction site or going to a port, your access points and the safety information needs to be given to the person doing the transportation. This is a sensational piece of technology that could help us on that. There is a bit of research being done by a mobile software business in Christchurch in New Zealand, a company called Black Bay. I don't know if anyone from Black Bay is here. They've been doing some research on using augmented reality for the last meter delivery. So turn by turn, trying to use facial recognition. I'm not at home, I'm outside, I'm just down the road, I'm having a cup of coffee. Can I please have my delivery? So that's also an interesting thing. So let's also think outside the four walls and go back to what are we trying to resolve here?
Okay, so guys, you are back to identifying part of it that is applicable now and then building into what it is in the video, right?
Okay. Yes, actually when Paul asked me about what is AR, so I tried to search. So this is a definition by Google, giving us this definition of AR. They say AR is a live, direct, or indirect view of a physical, real-world environment whose elements are augmented by computer-generated sensory input such as sound, video, graphic, or GPS data. So this is a definition that I got from the Google. But of course, whether that is really the definition or there are other definitions, I put a question mark. But essentially, I guess one of the main points I learned from here is this AR is trying to help humans when they want to interact with the system by having the sensory input. But if you look at the human, what are sensory input there? So we listen, so we have a sound. We see, that's why we have a visual. But actually, we also can taste, we can smell, and we can touch. But of course, if you talk about taste, smell, and touch, this is, internal technology will be much more complicated that I'm not sure whether there are such available technology there. But at least if you look at the sound and the visual, it can be easily available. So another concept coming to here is how will the human interact with the environment? And it goes back to what Charlie just now mentioned. What is objective? Because for us, when we're trying to do research, a lot of time, my question always go back to, yeah, it's good to have a lot of technology, it's cool, it's good, but at the end of the day, what is the problem that we would like to address? If you look at the definition, I think one of the main issues that AR trying to address is, can we help the human so that he can work more efficiently and effectively in the environment that they are here? So in other ways, if you have an environment which humans are not involved, of course, I don't think you need AR. Just now in the discussion, we're thinking that should we put equipment, the Google Glass, on top of a robot? It doesn't make sense, right? So because, so why do you need another equipment on top of a robot? So essentially, when we talk about AR, have to be on the human. And because of that, it goes back to what the human good at and what is the human weak at. Okay, we understand that human actually good at making judgment, sometimes maybe a wrong judgment, but at least you make judgment. So, and also we have our moral, and also a lot of time for a very complex situation, maybe we can abstract it out and know what we want to do. So this is what human good at. But what human is not good at is we are limited by our vision. Like if you hide something, if you have obstruction that you cannot see through the world, and our view is only local. And also, if you give me too many numbers, sorry, I can't remember. So those are things that humans are weak at. So in this case, if AR can complement what the human weak at, and so that they're using the visual or sound to guide. Like for example, in terms of complex data, I don't know, but essentially when I wear this Google Glass or those equipment, he can easily show me some visual analytics. And from a visual, immediately I know what is that means. So I know what action I want to take. I mean, similarly, the other day, just 2-3 months ago, I visited Tsinghua University. So they show us one of the things that they are trying to do is, again, similar to Google Glass, but then they are trying to guide the human to do routing. Like, how do you work, and then how do you actually work around the maze? But one of the interesting things is he showed the arrow. When you should turn right here, turn left here. If you make the wrong movement, he'll keep on showing you, turn right, turn right, turn right. So after a certain point, he will reroute and tell you this is the route to do. So I'm thinking that possible, if you really would like to guide people to do the way, maybe you can add some sensor like sound or even electric shock to tell you that, no, sorry, wrong movement, you should go the other side.
Sounds like Garmin, right? Recalculating.
Yeah, so what I want to highlight here is the AR actually opened up a lot of possibility to help humans. So the bottom line here is, what do we want out from here? And what is the human good at? Can we use the tool to make sure human is best at what they are doing, and at the same time, trying to use this tool to complement what the human is weak at, so that at the end, you can increase in terms of productivity.
Okay. I see two fields of application. First of all, visual picking, as we've seen here, and second of all, we've seen here as well, remote support. So for visual picking, what I've seen so far from technology-wise, I think a lot of the technology is a bit over-engineered. Too many functions tried to build into the glass. So what we believe at Swisslog is basically if you have a simple glass where you can barcode scan, which shows you the pick location and how much you have to pick from, that may be enough. And adding to that, you may have just a simple mobile phone. With that mobile phone, you basically do some search functions on inventory, etc. So that could be something feasible. And if you think of, this is from the B2C world, that's actually quite affordable. So linking that with a mobile phone can be actually quite a cheap, sexy, and lean application in the warehouse. There's actually as one pilot project from DHL with Ricoh in Europe. They believe they already increased the performance in comparison to a handheld by 30%. For me, it would be actually interesting, compare it with voice picking, right? Are you really better than voice picking? Certainly, it's hands-free, less touch points, so generally, there should be a better efficiency with that. There's another one, it's a German company. It's a cosmetics company. They applied another glass called Picavi, and they apparently very successful, and they already picking like that and believe they already reduce picking time by 20%. So there seems to be a realistic application for glasses. So now we talked about visual picking. Second, remote support. Imagine our customer service people in the warehouse, they go on the ground into an installation. and they basically can't solve the problem. They need an expert, so they basically call up our headquarters in Switzerland, and they basically can already show what's going on in real life on the installation, and they can fix it together. So here again, the aim would be, one is efficiency, here save time and save costs. So I guess there's real life application. Is the technology mature yet? That's a question to me. And I guess also what we've seen here is also a bit marketing with the SAP, sorry, to say so. So I guess it will be complementary to what we have in the warehouse, but for now, the near future, I don't think it's going to disrupt the entire supply chain of warehouse. But I think that's also a good point with last mile delivery. I see applications there as well for loading of the truck, or even the delivery guy picking the right parcel from the truck and basically send it to the right house number. So that will help in case with Google Maps.
Okay, yeah. Full integration, why not?
Yes, okay, it's happening. Okay, as you can see, there's a lot of application. I would say the application are more visible with the end users in the consumer world. There's a study who said just recently that it might generate by next year around $5 billion US. That's AR end users application, so it's happening as well. What you have seen here is what I would call a superior platform or logistic platform, which might happen and is happening in Europe or in the States. Again, I have a lot of, not doubts, but there's a lot of question marks and challenges with regard to this kind of operation. If you want to install or create or build this kind of operation in Asia Pacific, the cost is a major issue. You must look at the return on investment, which is a very critical parameters. The investments in this kind of environment can be quite massive. The kind of data to handle, the kind of mathematical algorithm to handle as well, to deal with intelligent systems or artificial systems, is not so simple. It required a lot of interfacing. Big data is it's very sexy and everybody talk about it, but you need a very powerful network backstage to be able to handle this data and to feed the system and all the subsystem you have seen in this video. So the hardware part, I think it's quite easy to handle. The software part, I have some question mark. Then you need to overcome a lot of human challenges, or I would say cultural challenges. The safety and security is a big issue, especially in a warehouse. And it's nice to have this kind of system, but when you drive a forklift and at the same time you have some message popping up on your head-up display helmet, there's a risk, and we cannot afford this kind of risk in this kind of environment.
No, I think with the environment like this, it's even safer, right? Because it prompts you. But let me take it from here, right? Yeah. So what you have in an augmented reality, I mean, we went to sensory logistics just now, but if I augment it a bit further, so imagine the weakness of a human is also strength. So instead of a forklift living 1 ton, how about a man living 1 ton, right? It's an Iron Man, right? Not just live 1 ton, I can fly with it somewhere. But I need to balance. But okay, that's a separate story. Exoskeleton. So can you imagine equipping our guys in the warehouse whereby nobody get backache, and then they can walk 8 hours carrying things. But you augment it all the way, and you create a warehouse that is blended. It's part automation, but it's a closed environment, so it's grid, which means that you can prevent areas for accidents from happening. If I were to implement this, right, I'm going to say this. I have voice. I take voice from you. I have automation. I take automation from you. I have experts on how to do it. I implement it. So I could actually make this a reality. I disagree about cost. I think the cost is coming down dramatically. I have guys like Hope Technic. You sell your equipment for 2 million, Hope Technic sell for 50,000 because he just built one carry pick for me. You sell me a system, he sell me one. So the entire idea behind is that the cost can come down. If you were to implement a augmented reality warehouse, let's say in Singapore, can we move ahead with something like this, do a trial? And what would a child, what would a child needs? What would you guys do if I gave you a chance to say, like, can we do something like this here now? What do we really need to make it happen? Can we make it happen? What do we need? Now, you are the expert, no? Okay, let the expert talk. Two experts, one with auditory.
So your question is, can you make this happen as a trial
now,
in Singapore now? Sure, I think to a certain degree, yes. I mean, what holds back any new technology like this, and I think, Frank, you mentioned it, is cost. I mean, really, to implement a solution like this today is probably really expensive. So there's only going to be a handful of companies who are, typically your early adopter companies, who are probably going to look at this and implement it in some limited fashion, because again, the cost to roll it out is just going to be tremendous. You've got, and it was mentioned down here again about, the big data. You've got to manage all of this positional, GPS type coordinates inside your warehouse, or whether you're outside the warehouse. That's a huge challenge, and it's bringing a lot of pieces together, which to me says it's going to be very expensive. But there will be people to do it for sure. To me, it comes down to funding. It comes down to who has the deep pockets. Is it maybe in Singapore, the Singapore government, who ends up funding something like this to, I mean, I'm aware of programs like that here already. What is it going to be? I don't know.
Charlie, any idea?
So Paul, the problem we're trying to resolve is around productivity and accuracy. So at some stage, we're going to spend so much, we're going to invest so much in technology on the individual that maybe it's cheaper to automate. So we've got to understand, and I think from Larry's perspective, and we were talking about this before, there's a blend of technology here. So there is a lot of voice involved in this sensory stuff. By the way, I'm not scared about the cost. I don't know if you're aware, and I'll be interested in Singapore to understand what's your most downloaded app in Singapore. Do you know? I don't know. What's the most downloaded app?
M1.
I can tell you the Australian one. It's a real estate app, and it's absolutely based on augmented reality. You go outside of a house, you take your iPad or your smartphone, you take a photograph, you're geolocated, you'll now be taken in a tour of that building. You can go in and out, up and down, you don't have to go inside that. That is the most popular downloaded app in Australia. Augmented reality is here. We've got a fairly artificial case that SAP have conjured up here. And why not? Because it generates discussion. I'd really like to understand how augmented reality can get dimensioning of a parcel more accurate at pickup, so we can get the volumetric right. I think if we were going, your challenge to go and do this in Singapore, we're concentrating on this new piece of hardware here. Well, why are you doing that? You've all got a smartphone in your pocket, use that. Put an earpiece in, and away you go. So, I wouldn't get hung up on the fact that it has to be, and as our key speaker yesterday talked about, go and have a look at what the military are doing. What's the helicopter pilot? What's that helicopter, he or she, got in their heads-up display? And what's the military doing about this? There may be some gems there.
You've got to talk to Peter.
Actually, I can't agree. It's all go back to the objective and what do you want to achieve. Like, for example, just I mentioned that in a warehouse, if your idea is actually make sure it's productive and also high accuracy, so AR may be one of the techniques, but might not be the only one. So in other ways, there may be a lot of other alternatives out there which can solve the problem. But of course, it's good to have that kind of a warehouse, they would say, is quite cool. But on the other hand, I mean, the more systematic study about why do we need such a system need to be conducted in order to know that whether should we adopt this technology or not. And on the other hand, on the other hand, I also believe that if you talk about to be more accurate and to be more productive, it's not only on the way how humans react, but also a lot of times it's about how you capture the information and the data. And then, and just now in the last panel, we're talking about big data, all this. But essentially, the more issue is, can you try to utilize the information, so that at the end of the day, you can make decisions. And the underlying, there's also a lot of those information, and how do you process information, and how do you translate the information, do decision in such a way that you can achieve what you would like to do. So in this regard, I always try to say this might be one potential, but whether that is the only potential, I put a question mark, because a discussion about other alternatives as well as a cost have to be there. Like one example, I just bring back to the example that we do for the double story. Actually, after we win this $1 million award, okay, people are saying, very good, now, are we going to build this port in Tuas immediately? Of course, now come into question, that is just a competition. So in the competition, they give you a piece of land, they want you to increase the land productivity as well as the labor productivity and also equipment productivity. That's why it comes in that concept. And after the concept, we try to minimize the cost in order to satisfy the constraints. But now the concept comes into here is, okay, you have this concept, it's good. But the second question people ask is, why do you want to build double story? And then they ask the question, would that be cheaper if I reclaim the land? So if you're building double story is more expensive than I reclaim the land, then they have a second consideration, do they want to go for that or not? But of course, having said so, being an academia, I always proclaim we need to be innovative. We need to think beyond the boundary, and this is where we can push forward the technology. So that's why in terms of research, in terms of a concept, in terms of idea, we should not be bound by all these constraints. We should think beyond. But of course, after all these ideas being explored and think, then if you would like to consider about implementation, then we have to do what I call a more systematic, system-wide study, so that we are not only building the system which can work now, but also can work 10 years, 20 years from now. And we also have to prepare for flexibility so that in future, when there are things changes and people are changes, and this idea can still be continued on. So in short, I think this is things that we have to consider in order to make sure it works.
Sure. Well, certainly I believe you can build such an automated warehouse eventually, but obviously involving the cost, you may not want to do that. I think we should be actually a little bit more practical in that sense. You don't need to build something highly sophisticated like that. You could already apply augmented reality with vision picking, simple, right, rather than very complex and try to solve everything. Remote support, I think that's where you can already bring in a good result and then achieve a certain goal. But augmented reality, again, I mean, it has been invented already many, many years back, right? And I think the application is probably more as well on the consumer side. We have IKEA catalogs where you can basically have your 3D furniture, place them into your apartment as you want. You have BMW, for instance, they use augmented reality for designing of cars. You have them as well on your window shields as well in front, showcasing your speed. I think that's probably more the real application. So I don't think you need to achieve that. It looks all fascinating, and we love it. We also love our robots over there, right? But they should be there to solve a problem, and not just for the sake of it.
Frankly speaking, this is not new. Military application, HUD display, this is something very old-fashioned. F-16, F-15 use HUD for a long, long time. It's just that now we have a lot of videos, we have access to YouTube, and then suddenly we can show this kind of application. But HUD on a BMW, you have this option for $10,000. You can see the speed. You can have a heat signature as well, where you can see when an animal is crossing a road. It's nothing special. AR is part of emerging technologies, and emerging technologies, there are plenty. AR is just a small component. And I think what the key is when you design a warehouse or you design your supply chain platform is to look at all these different components. And the objective is to meet your customers' requirements and to have a dynamic alignment of your business objectives and your operating platform or structure. And this has to be the key objective. Each customer has different requirements. For some customers, it's velocity. For some, they want agility. They have different words, different way to do it. So I think the mix of type of technologies has to be well planned and well organized within a company so that you can mix. It's like a cocktail. You mix the right ingredients, and these ingredients, this cocktail, will meet your customers' requirements. And then you will design the perfect platform, the perfect logistics platform.
I like the fact that you guys come pointing out the idea that what we're trying to solve. So maybe then we come to what are we really trying to solve? Are our logistics centers, our warehouses today, being run as efficiently as what you guys would like to see it run? So where are the failing points? Why are we not doing the things that we should be doing? Why are not all the warehouses voice? Because if I have voice and I'm hands-free, I can pick faster. Why can't I have it more automated? If it's more automated, and then there's velocity, then there's also accuracy, right? So what is missing? What is missing in this world? Why is there a scenario like this and everybody get crazy and says it can be done? And why is it not something else that is already available?
You should have come to my talk yesterday.
Oh, it was too crowded.
No, what I spoke about was barriers to adopting new technology. And 25 years in the voice business, right, where voice is perceived as new, no matter what geography we head into, all of a sudden it's new, right, where we go. I've kind of compartmentalized a lot of it. And it really, in my opinion, it comes down to one thing. You walk in and you say, we're going to change the way you run your distribution operation. We're going to turn it upside down. We're going to put voice on the people, we're going to put glasses on the people, whatever the technology, we're going to turn it upside down. Somebody has to make the decision to say, I sign off on that, yes, go. Number one barrier to new technology is risk. No question. And the risk really comes down to who's going to put their neck on the line to sign for that, and if it fails, I get fired. And I've seen that happen in the industry across the board. Of course, not with our technology, no. But others, right? There have been horror stories, people that I've spoken to directly who have said, wow, this really went well. Let me tell you about something that didn't go so well. And it slows the adoption of technology tremendously. Example, Japan. 4 years ago, I visited a facility. It took 4 years for them. Finally, the president of the company was the guy to step forward and say, we're going to do this. Now, sure, things are slow in Japan. Okay, fine. Decisions take a long time. But that is not unusual in any geography from what we see. It's risk.
Okay.
Can I?
Charlie,
My company is actually in the market for a 3PL at the moment. And we're going through presentations in Australia. And if there's people from those companies involved, good luck. We're a telecommunications, IT services business, and you might have heard overnight the Apple launch. Guess what that means to our business? Talk about bursty demand. Do you think we're going to be trialing new technology over the next 3 months? What do you think our appetite for risk will be over the next 3 months in our warehousing systems? By the way, our current provider has been providing solutions for us for 10 years. 10 years ago, our industry looked very different. So there's always a bloody good reason. Now, whether it's an iPhone launch, whether it's a product, whether it's your appetite for risk, you know, we're lucky to come to 1 or 2 days and think about the future. We're all busy being busy, aren't we? We're running an operation. We're in the business of delivering value to our customers and shareholders. We're not here in technology experimental land. And until you get that right, until you've got a problem you've got to solve, this is just more, you know, PowerPoint theory. What are you going to solve? Have a look at what you're going to do and go and execute well. Manage your risk, fail fast, get on with it.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, yes. Being an academia, we're always trying to look beyond. And there's also a ways we face a challenge. So a lot of times we have new ideas, we would like to see what can be the next new thing that we would like to go. But a lot of times when we discuss with the people down the line, the first question they're asking is this realistic? So how fast I can get my ROI? You know, those kind of things will come. But of course, I have to admit that in the true technology that we're trying to look at, we look at something that beyond what we are currently doing. So I recall when we tried to do for the competition, so actually one of our partners is from this JPMC, which is actually the largest key crane manufacturer. So at that time, when we say that we want to design a double-story container pod, so everyone come with the design. So I still recall that the first meeting, we all sit together and then actually everyone saw our design about what we think the future container terminal are going to look like. So we're using PowerPoint to draw a double-story container, while they're using the AutoCAD, and then it's a very, very big layout they show us. But at the end of the day, what they are doing is they're using their current technology and trying to make sure that it's able to meet the condition, while my idea is totally different than what they say. So after that, the director for the JPMC come to me and say that, Professor Lee, he say, your concept is very good. But the issue is, you look around, there's no world building double-story container terminal. So why do you want to go for that? And I don't want to be the laughing stock among my peers saying that I'm the one who proposed double-story and which is not realistic. So actually that's true. There's a risk which are involved, and there's something which, but again, I trying to convince him saying that a lot of time we should not just live within what we think it should be or what people are practicing. So if you want to look at technology advancement, a lot of time you have to think beyond the box, beyond the boundary. And after that, I trying to convince him, in terms of technology, definitely we are able to solve. And then you just need to change a bit of your technology, and eventually this double-story container terminal is possible. So this is how we make it work. So I guess in summary, in some time, we really have to think beyond what our current boundary is so that we can make the things advance. Go back to this AR. One idea suddenly come to my mind is, because this is actually for the workforce. If you look at our future workforce, their age is totally different than us. Okay, they are young people. Nowadays, young people are very different in terms of the way how they work, how they grow up. So if I look at my kids, now it's one is 12 years old, the other is 14 years old. A lot of time, they thought that I'm the old generation. So the way I thought, the way I do, I said that I do Facebook. He said, no, nowadays Facebook is already not cool. You know, we young people don't do Facebook. We do Instagram. So that's why now I start to pick up Instagram. You know, that is what we are feeling. And this group of people, actually they grow up in the age using a mobile computing and using the screen. So they are different than what we grow up with. So in this case, when you talk about this AR application, all this, can we think about our future workforce? They are living in the age which is different than us. They grow up in a different era. So in this case, possible center around them, it's not for us are going to do the picking. We are talking about our future workforce. So how will this come to picture? This is also something we can think about it.
I think, Charlie, you were right. We're still thinking of the current problem. This future problem is not ours, right? So that's why you can't solve. So how you solve? Are you guys solving? Definitely solving. You're living in China, so you're selling like crazy, right?
Yes, exactly. No, there's actually 2 points for me. Lack of predictability and also lack of adaptation of our human beings. Predictability, that's what I see, especially in e-commerce. If you're growing year on year 100%, you are not that open or flexible to invest in a fully automated warehouse. And these are challenges we both face in our business overall. Therefore, we should actually make our technologies more flexible and movable as well. And I think one of the great things is like having a robot you basically have on a car and you can place it into another warehouse. These are ideas of approaching that, this lack of predictability as you grow and you have all this uncertainty and you're adding more products onto your marketplace, etc. So that's one point, but then I think as well, like ourselves, humans, we constrain ourselves. I mean, even for myself, and I consider myself to be the youngest, I guess, in this group. So as I got the Google Glass.
You went to buy this?
Huh?
Is this yours?
Swisslog's.
Swisslog.
It's now mine. Anyways, so even myself, if I look it up, like on all these videos, I believe, I could never wear that. I don't see myself picking with that glass, right? It's probably going to constrain myself. I wear it after 2 hours. I even forget to take it off while I work. So it's that's what you say about the young people, so they adapt it very fastly. And I think also at one point with technology, you have to be the first mover, otherwise you're not gaining any competitive advantage. I understand the risk you're referring to, but we have like this AutoStore solution, which is super unique, right? So we saw the first one now in Australia, and these guys very happy with the system because now they deliver 4 days faster than any other e-commerce player, right? So they take a risk, it's a calculated risk, it's a first technology they have to adapt, and maybe it's also the glass. So this is these are my thoughts.
Yeah, there are risks and then we take calculated risk.
I think the e-commerce example is very good because it shows how volatile the market is. Market is very dynamic, it keeps on changing. So we are dealing in intralogistic with SKU. So the business plans keeps on changing, moving like a speedboat. So one day we are looking at 1 million SKU, then the next day we are looking at 1 million.1, and then 2 million, and then we want to cover 5 million, 10 million people, 30 million people, and the business plans are extremely dynamic. But what you see, they are very volatile. And in order to have this kind of technology extremely flexible, which can meet this kind of requirement, business requirement, I can tell you, I haven't seen this kind of technology yet. It doesn't exist. I don't think so. There's still, the system are still rigid. They are not so flexible. Or you need a good planning, a good design of the system. And you need to plan for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. And it's very difficult for the engineers to plug in 20 years of business plan in a system. And that's the problem. Then after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, then we are dealing with very big elephants. And everybody knows about this. So that's one of the issues why a lot of people don't automatically buy technology or don't want to invest. Then we must look at operating margin. This is a very highly competitive market in Asia. The operating margin keeps on dropping on a daily basis. You need cash flow to buy or to justify your ROI. Cash flow is very important. And then you look, e-commerce is another very good example. You invest in marketing, in an IT platform to capture your customers, or you invest in a piece of metals, equipment. They go for the IT platform, for the marketing platform, for the application. Yeah, that's where the value is. You go to their warehouse. Their warehouses are like warehouse from the 50s. It's like watching a movie in black and white. So you have to be extremely practical. On top of that, you were talking about this top management and board of directors. They come only for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you rotate them. And number 2, number 3, same, you rotate them. And these guys are the ones making the decisions. And then there's a new team. And then you start everything from scratch. I've seen this kind of cycle so many times because I've been in business development for so many years. These are obstacles, I can tell you. The technical part, I don't think is an issue. You look at the military sectors, whatever we see now, it's 20 years or even more. It's very old kind of technology. But that's not the issue. And then how you monetize, that's another
don't
challenge.
bring too many issues into it. Okay, so we know the challenges faced in the logistics center. Any questions from you guys? Quick one. Lunchtime. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have one. Quick one. Lunchtime is more important. Question not important. You can ask them later. While she run to you with this, right? There's no perfect warehouse. So the one that I show you was just for fun. Okay, and then I was trying to trigger off something in these guys, but we didn't really get there. We didn't really get to what I wanted to do. But it's okay. It's the last day of the event, right? So we're finishing. Michael, again, come.
Yeah, the area I want to talk about is the migration cost, because every investment is a capex expenditure. So like the speaker had mentioned, if let's say the board of directors have been changing very often and the capex investment is depreciation with 5 to 7 years. That's one of the challenges that we really see of technology coming in as a barrier, because we have to depreciate what we invested. The other question is on scalability. With technology change, business direction also change. So the solution behind the skill level of our architect may also change. So my question, how do you view migration and scalability in the future? Because if we want to invest for 5 to 7 years, we have to be prepared to anticipate the market changes and the business changes.
It's called pre-owned, sell back to someone else. No, sorry. So migration, flexibility.
Yeah, actually, what you're talking about is something that we see every day. We talked about what's the problem to solve. The problem to solve today is omnichannel, right? 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it might be something different. So the target keeps changing as we move forward through the years. You know, I can think back when it was, you know, Target was very different, but today the big problem to solve is e-commerce and omni-channel, excuse me, and how to mix retail distribution operations with e-commerce distribution operations and bring that all together, and how do you do that efficiently when a company can't look 3 years, 2 years out and say, boy, we think our e-commerce business is going to be here in 2 to 3 years. Nobody can predict that. So what we're seeing is a demand, and somebody mentioned it down here, a demand for flexibility. Flexibility right now is a key driver in the supply chain. Voice happens to fit that. So we're capitalizing on that in a lot of ways. I can see certainly the augmented reality being a big portion of that. So to me, to kind of address your question, today it's all about flexibility. It's about a short time frame to pay off your technology investment, and something that can work in the omni-channel, e-commerce, retail, whatever.
So, my 30 seconds. You don't know we don't know what's happening in 3 and 5 years. We can have some guesses. So how can I manage that risk? I reckon software trumps hardware every day. Sorry, lads. So if you can design your system to be hardware agnostic, whatever that system is, I think you're on a winner.
Oh, that's a good word, huh? Hardware agnostic. Anyone want to take on?
I guess another thing is might have to do a lot of scenario planning. In other words, trying to look at possible scenario and then trying to analyze under this scenario whether are you able to success or not. So put it this way, I guess essentially you need to have a risk management framework when you're trying to consider about those changes, so that all this can be taken care of, and then you are confident that even the worst case scenario happen, where are you going to be? So if you believe that either under that situation you are okay, then go ahead. But if you're not, then possible you have to evaluate the risk that you have to take it. So in other words, a lot of this maybe you have to monetize it so that you know what risk that you have to bear. Yeah.
I will summarize for them in 2 points. I actually think that if you are a startup and your investors give you $200 million, you got 18 months to live, spend that $200 million, buy whatever tech you can buy, don't care about hardware agnostic or whatever, just invest in the most future tech so that more investors will come in, give another $200 million, last you another 18 months, right? So that group of people who will do this kind of investment. There's another group of people who are so rich, they don't know where to do their money, they just buy the future warehousing, just implement. And they are showcased, and then because they show that they are so good, then they get more money, and then they build. So it works that way. Then if you are the poor guy in the middle, right, the middle class, then too bad. And we shall go for lunch. But before we go for lunch, let's thank our guys here first, right? Thank you very much, guys. Oh, yeah, thank you first. Okay, come. And while they are going down, I do a lay of the land for a while. Thank you very much. I got to chase you guys off the stage. Somebody just throw me something. And if you want to see his Google Glass, where are you? Which booth are you in? Swisslog booth, right? But if not, you catch him here. The Google Glass after that passed to me, right? We need to do